Today, we're going to dive into a work of Japanese literature that's over 130 years old. And forget what you think you know about old Japanese stories. No samurai, no castles. This is a story about office politics, about getting laid off, and that gnawing anxiety you get when the world is just changing way too fast. And trust me, it's going to feel surprisingly familiar.
I mean, you know that feeling, right? When you're just stuck in your own head, running through every single possible conversation, every single outcome, until you're just completely paralyzed. You can't make a single move. It feels like such a modern problem, doesn't it?
Well, what if I told you that this exact feeling, this paralysis, was captured perfectly in Japan's very first modern novel, all the way back in 1887? The book is called Ukigumo, which means drifting clouds, and wow, it is a shockingly relevant look at the birth of the modern anxious office worker.
Okay, so let's meet our guy. His name is Bunzo. He's a pretty ordinary office worker, and he's totally caught between two worlds, struggling with a problem that feels like it could have been written yesterday.
So the whole story really boils down to two very different guys. On one side, you've got our protagonist, Bunzo. He's all about integrity. He's serious, honest, maybe a little too thoughtful. And on the other side, you have his coworker, Noboru. This guy is a master of office politics. He knows exactly what to say, how to flatter the boss. You can probably guess where this is going.
And yep, there it is. The company restructures, and Bunzo, the guy who refuses to play the game, gets laid off. Meanwhile, Noboru, the slick talker, gets a huge promotion. Just like that, Bunzo's world is completely flipped upside down. His integrity gets punished, while his rival's scheming pays off. And you can just feel his pain in this quote. He sees exactly what he needs to do to succeed in this new world. Kiss up to the boss, play the game. But every part of him, his pride, his values, just screams no. He's totally stuck between the fear of failing and the fear of losing who he is if he gives in.
Now, to really get why Bunzo is in such an impossible spot, we've got to zoom out and look at the world he was living in. Because honestly, it was a time of complete and total chaos.
You have to remember, this is Meiji-era Japan. A feudal society that had lasted for 250 years, built on samurai codes of honor, was basically collapsing overnight, and it was being replaced by Western-style capitalism. Suddenly, all the old rules were useless. Money and status became the new gods, and being a good flatterer went from being a weakness to being a crucial career skill. And the author himself, Futaba Shimei, he was living this conflict. He came from a samurai family, a real elite intellectual, and he was passionate about bringing this new, psychologically realistic style of writing to Japan. But back then, writing novels was not seen as a respectable job. And get this, his pen name is apparently a pun on something his dad yelled at him, "Go to hell." So, you see, he was a lot like his main character, Bunzo, a man caught between the old world and the new.
Okay, so here's where the novel's genius really shines through. This is why it still hits so hard today. It explores three universal struggles that, really, they just transcend time and place. So, we're talking about, first, the crippling paralysis of just thinking too much. Second, how money and status can totally poison even our closest relationships. And finally, the quiet dignity you can find in being a misfit in a world that's just obsessed with success.
This first one is the absolute core of Bunzo's character. He's smart, he's ethical, but that's his problem. He thinks through every single angle, every possibility, and he gets so trapped inside his own mind that he just can't take a single step in the real world. It's a perfect portrait of modern anxiety, written more than a century ago. It's incredible. And then, ouch. The story shows how this new capitalist reality hits home. The second Bunzo loses his job, his aunt, who'd always been so nice to him, turns ice cold. And even worse, the woman he loves starts to drift away from him, right towards his newly promoted, now wealthy rival. The book just forces you to ask this really uncomfortable question about what's really holding our relationships together.
But here's the strange thing. This is where the book gives you this weird sense of comfort. I mean, by any measure, Bunzo is a loser. He loses at work, he loses in love. But as you're reading, you're not rooting for the successful guy, you're rooting for Bunzo. His struggle to hang on to his clumsy integrity, it feels noble. It's this powerful defense of the anti-hero.
All right, we have to talk about the ending, because this might be the most modern and, frankly, the most shocking part of the whole book.
So, after hundreds of pages of him waffling and overthinking, Bunzo finally hits his breaking point.
He's had enough. He's gonna go confront his rival, Noboru, and he's gonna find out once and for all how his love, Ose, really feels. It feels like, yes, the big climax is finally here.
He walks down the stairs. He's heading right for the room where they are. He gets to the door, and his feet just freeze. The old thoughts creep back in. Well, maybe I shouldn't. And he turns around.
And that's it. The story just stops. Right there. The author intentionally left it unfinished. Nothing gets resolved. Bunzo doesn't win. He doesn't lose. He's just left there, agonizing. It was this brilliant final statement on the book's main theme. Just wow.
So what does this all mean? Why are we talking about some unfinished novel about a 19th century office worker? Well, it's because Bunzo's problem is our problem.
It all comes back to that title, Ukigumo, Drifting Clouds. It's a perfect metaphor for people who've lost their foundation, their anchor in life. They're just left floating aimlessly between old values and new ones, never quite able to land anywhere.
Does any of that sound familiar? I mean, we are living through our own massive shift with AI and globalization. The skills that mattered 5 years ago might be worthless tomorrow. On social media, superficial charm gets way more attention than quiet, hard work. We are all, in our own way, kind of drifting.
In the end, Ukigumo doesn't give you any easy answers. It's not a self-help book. Its real gift is something much deeper. It's this profound feeling of companionship. It tells us that feeling lost, overthinking everything, trying to be a good person in a world that doesn't always reward it, that's not a new struggle. That's a noble human struggle that's been going on for a long, long time.
So the novel just kind of leaves us with this one final thought to chew on. In a world that feels like it's constantly shifting under our feet, where the rules of the game are always changing, what do you hold on to? When you feel like a drifting cloud, what's your anchor?